What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's daily devotional, and we are continuing our study in John. We are Trust in Jesus Ministries here because we want to help you understand and trust in Jesus with all of who you are. Man, that makes life greater, better, more fulfilling. We don't have to rely on ourselves, but we know there's one who is greater, who's taking care of us, who is making sure that everything's working out for our good and his glory. That's what it means to trust in Jesus. And I hope that as we continue to study through John, I will be able to reveal to you as we study who Jesus is, and the scriptures will illuminate you and you can understand more about him so that we do trust in him more, because it's so important. Hey, if you love what we do here, man, I would appreciate it if you just check out the website, give us a thumbs up here, or a review on Apple or whatever podcast you're listening to. We've got a lot of content at the website, trustinjesusministries.com, to help you to grow and trust in him. So check all that out. See our other ministries that we do. We're headed to a van life conference, or we're actually at one, and we are about to, not a conference, but a gathering, and we're trying to help others to grow in God too, to trust Jesus there. So we're doing this online in content. We're doing this live with people. So just be praying for us if you're listening, that our chapel goes well, and that I'm able to present the gospel and share the love of Jesus with others who may not know it, as well as to build community, foster community with people who don't often get a chance to be with believers. So that's what we do here in a nutshell. We got a lot going on, so check and see all of that stuff. But again, let's just go back to the scriptures, because I'm digressing and talking about the things that I love to do, the things God has me doing. But right here, reading the scriptures, reading about John, it has opened up my heart so much. And so knowing Jesus more every day as I'm studying this is an amazing thing. It's amazing. So I hope that you are doing the same as well. Anyway, let's jump into it, man. If you haven't read the text, it's John 5:41 through 47. Stop the tape, check it out, see what it has to say. If you have read the text, we're going to dive into it. So we are on the last leg of the speech or monologue that Jesus is speaking, as he's speaking to these Pharisees, these scribes, ruling elite, the Jews, about who he is, because they are mad. And I'm really, as I'm reading this and studying this, just to think that Jesus is saying these type of things is kind of tough, man, for them to hear. It's like, if I said this stuff, like, honor me as you honor God, or honor me as you honor God, man, that's tough stuff. But Jesus gives the witnesses. Last episode we talked about of why this is true, because of things that he does. And I was talking with a buddy, and he was talking about, necessarily you would have to be a perfect person to claim that everything, all the things that you do, there's nothing that you do not do that the Father doesn't desire or doesn't will. That means you have to be perfect, a perfect person. And there is none but Jesus who fulfills this. And he does it as well, not in just how he walked and lived, but in the signs that he did, in the very healing of the man with the legs that weren't working, the child, bringing him back from his sickness. So those are two ways, those witnesses we talked about. Man, it's crazy just to think about that. But anyway, Jesus says this. He says he doesn't do this to receive glory from man. And that's what's so amazing, is that he only seeks to please the Father. Like, the testimony of man wasn't necessary, but he did it for our sakes so that we might be saved. And now the glory of man, he doesn't need. He doesn't have to receive that. All he seeks is the recognition of his Father. That's kind of what glory here means. It's the affirmation or recognition from his Father. He says, but we do seek it, man. It says that we seek the affirmation or admiration of our peers. But before we get into that, he says that the love of God is not in them, man. So what does this mean? Is it that that God doesn't love them? or that they do not love God. And I think the latter is true, is that they do not love God, because it's talking about setting up all of this. It was talking about how men love their deeds more than they love the light. And so they stayed in the darkness. And that's kind of what he's saying right here. Is he says, you don't believe because you receive the glory from yourselves amongst each other, or your own glory. You want your own glory is basically what he's saying. And you don't want the one from the only begotten. You're not seeking the glory or the admiration or the affirmation from the one and only God. And he says, and I'm not accusing you about this. It's not him who's doing it. It says Moses is doing this. And what Jesus says about Moses when he's saying that, he's talking about the scriptures. The things that Moses writes is the things that accuse them, that has revealed their heart, because they don't believe Jesus. They don't listen to Jesus. They don't hear Jesus. They're looking past him, thinking that he is blasphemous, rather than seeing who he truly is. He says, because if they believed Moses, they would have believed him, because the scriptures are talking about him. That what is being said about Jesus, or what Jesus is doing and how he's living, has been said in the scriptures. And again, there's no specific scripture that has been labeled out to attest to this. There are many that we could talk about, but what it is most likely that the theme, the preponderance of all of it, is pointing to Jesus. Like the whole, what Paul says in Romans is that Christ is the end of the law. And when he says end, he doesn't mean, the word is telos in Greek. And when he says end, he doesn't mean like, it means the law is done, broken, because he says uphold the law. It's good, it's holy. But what he means is he is the completion, the fulfillment of it. Everything that the law says to do, he has done it and made it so that we might have life in him. Man, because that's a little bit of what it said last time. It says you look at the scriptures to find life, but you don't seek Jesus, because Jesus is the end of the law. He's the fulfillment of all of these scriptures. And that is who we should find hope. And so the thing in which they place their hope in doesn't work for them, because it is not Moses who saves, but Jesus. Moses writes about the one in whom they should place their trust in. So if they were looking at the scriptures, they would know and see truly that it is not the law itself that they should be placing their trust in, but the one who came to fulfill the law. Jesus. Jesus. So what's this saying about God? Well, he's a unique and one and only God. There is none like him. He says, you're seeking the glory of man rather than the affirmation or the glory of the only one. And so again, we talked a little bit about Jesus and his relationship with the Father and how he's equal with God. And so now he affirms their monotheism, saying there is only one God. Now, that is a Trinitarian thought, and that's a difficult thought to explain and understand, but it's a truth that is found in the scriptures. One example is Paul, who is like the epitome of Jew, is what he says about himself, a monotheist, yet he calls Jesus God. That's a radical change for him to call Jesus God, being in that Hebraic Jewish background. And so Jesus asserting there's only one God brings out this idea of the Trinity, of the Godhead, the Holy Spirit, Jesus the Son, and then God the Father. There's only one God. And then second, man, is that God, the Son, Jesus, is seen through the scriptures. He's revealed through the scriptures. And then as he is revealed through the scriptures, he reveals who the Father is. What does this say about man? I'm sorry, man. I keep flicking away at this fly. One fly keeps flying around my head. I'm sorry, guys. But what does this say about man? Is that men seek to glorify themselves, by seeking the affirmation of others. That's basically keeping up with the Joneses, right? I mean, that's how it's been for the longest time. You see your neighbor get something, you want to be like them because you want them to think that you cool, or you got status, or you got whatever it is. It's always about pleasing others so that you might glorify yourself. That's what's happening here. Even the very thing, because it says the love of God's not in them. They don't love God because they don't see the Son. But what they do see is that they can do everything in the law so that others think that they're good and have status and can teach and do all this and that. It's not about the affirmation or the love of God, because if it was, they would see that Jesus and the things that he does is displaying or explaining or testifying to who the Father is. How do we apply these truths to our lives, man? Well, first off, I think it's this idea of there's only one God. Now, in that context, having one God is a bit different than us, but I think it's still vital today, because we got to understand we've got plenty of gods in our lives, man. We got money, relationships, sex, drugs, uh, fun, esteem, status. Are those gods in your life, or is there only one God? And then that just follows up with the truth of this is, who are you seeking glory for? Is the glory for yourself, esteem from others so that you might feel good? Or is it only to do the Father's will? Man, that's the thing today. I think is we need to examine ourselves, take an examination. And I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.